Donon Holmes, the latest prospect to be mocked to the Denver Nuggets. Gonna be very interesting to see what they do in the draft. But one of the reports that's out there, Swipa, is that they've promised Donon Holmes, the Denver Nuggets did at the 28th overall pick, that if he's there, they'll take him. What do you make of that news?
Well, it's interesting because obviously there's been a lot of smoke to this, so there seems to be some kind of fire, and either Calvin Booth or Holmes Camp let everybody know. That way they can be like, look, this is the guy we're targeting. This would be the ultimate bait and switch of all time for the Nuggets, because if they did put it out there just so people wouldn't draft somebody else, that would be the funny part about this. But Holmes ostensibly makes a lot of sense. He's a 6'10" center who can shoot the three. He can move in space, good rim protection. He's pretty mobile. Like, he's kind of like very long arm and long limb when he moves. But look, he looks like he can be a good pick and roll defender. He looks like he can be a good switch big. He doesn't have a lot of size on him, so he's going to get dominated by some of these bigs in the league. Anthony Davis, your DeMontis Sabonis, Joel Embiid. But I think he'd be a really good fit for this team. And I think, like, if you had a bench with Donon Holmes, Peyton Watson, Christian Brown, and then you're also running Jamal Murray with that unit, you give Jamal Murray a real lob threat that's a good vertical spacer. And, he kind of reminds me of Isaiah Jackson. I don't know if people are familiar with him at all, but just a really great athlete that has a lot of ability to catch lobs and finish around the rim. I think Holmes is obviously a better player than that. He's more skilled, especially as a scorer and a shooter. But look, the Nuggets haven't had a big like that. Zeke Naji was supposed to be that. Mason Plumlee, not a switch defender at all. But obviously Boogie Cousins, they did have Isaiah Hartenstein, but even Isaiah didn't have that skill set. He was very underdeveloped when he was in Denver. So if you're telling me that that's what they're banking on, and that they can get a big that can do the things that Joker doesn't do well while doing basically none of the things that Joker does well, except maybe shoot that pop shot from an open three-pointer, then I think that would be a good player to bring off the bench. And if that is their guy, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, one of the good things about Holmes specifically, like you mentioned him being undersized, that could help him play next to Joker though. Like
Yeah.
he's a skilled enough outside shooter. He's somebody that could operate in the dunker spot. He could fill some of that Aaron Gordon role at times. It wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
surprise me at all. But he's also skilled to see the floor as a passer, to be a roller. Like he could absolutely be that finisher in the dunker spot when Jamal Murray when he comes off the screen, drops it off to Jokic. Jokic lobs it up to Donon Holmes this time around. I think there's something there where those guys could actually play together and they'd be skilled enough to make it work. Uh, I think that he is realistically the best center that Denver could get in this draft. I don't know if there are many other candidates that will actually fall to 28. I'm not even sure if Holmes is going to be there at 28. It kind of sounds like other teams are showing some interest too.
Yeah.
What would Denver like? It would be nice if they could get Holmes. If he's gone, is there another guy that you could see them actually going for?
That's the thing. Calvin Booth has his own mind. They have their own process. They have their own kind of players they're looking at. When I evaluate this, and I'm looking at the Denver Nuggets roster, they lack on-ball creation. They lack dribblers. They lack players that can do things with the basketball. So, yeah, it would be great to have some more size. But you know what? They might target a big on the free agency wire. We'll see. There's some better minimum options that they could potentially go after. But, Julian Strother, he's more of a play finisher still. Get one dribble, get to a spot, shoot a floater. Peyton's developed, but he's better with the ball in his hands in transition. And Christian Brown, also good in transition, but he's also like not a creator. I think there are some players around that range that, similar to Andrew Nembhard in the 2022 NBA draft, that I think would help them with some of that stuff. And again, they're not like going to be the best players in the draft, but at this point, you're just trying to find some value. And again, I don't know what's going to happen with Terrence Shannon Jr. He obviously had a lot of stuff that he's kind of been dealing with, and some stuff that he, this legal stuff, but it got resolved to the degree that he's going to be available for the draft. I mean, that's a player that I would look at in that situation too. I just think that the Nuggets are in need of a player like a Newton from Connecticut that will allow for them to be able to utilize their personnel. They are a team full of play finishers, shooters, and players that can finish around the rim. But I think, Ryan, for me, if you look at the last playoffs, they just needed more players other than Jamal Murray and Reggie Jackson that could initiate the offense and do something with the basketball.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of backup point guard types that you could find there. Uh, Guys like Tyler Kolek of
Yeah.
Marquette. Isaiah Collier has been falling from USC, but I like his
Hmm.
game. I think he's like his elite skill is getting into the paint. Now, some of
Yeah.
the decision making after that he's got to refine, but he could do that in a bench role in Denver. I like AJ Mitchell. He's got an Andrew Nemhard comparison to him
Hmm.
from UC Santa Barbara. There's a lot of different guys that they could go to. Uh, so it could be a backup point guard. It could be somebody of that nature. I also think that there's some value if they find a really good wing, even if it's like a wing shooter, somebody that's similar to a Julian Strother or it's a Christian Brown or Peyton Watson kind of replica. Like getting the best player available, and then maybe it frees you up to trade a guy that you wouldn't have traded before. There's also some value in that too, if you believe that the player that you get could be selected immediate and play immediately. I'm not sure whether they'll actually go that direction, but they shouldn't be beholden to just selecting a backup center like a
Yeah.
Holmes or a Filipowski or somebody of that nature. I think that they could go a variety of different directions.
Do you see any reality where they trade up? Like any legit reality where they would trade up?
Not really, and the reason is because I don't think that they would combine like Peyton Watson with the pick to try to move up. I don't think they'd try to combine Julian Strother in order to do that. No, maybe they do, and maybe there's a world where that actually makes sense to do. If you get the guy that you want and need to have, and if you think that that player could actually help you in your playoff rotation this upcoming season, I will just say that this draft class it is still relatively weak, and expecting whoever you get to be an immediate contributor, it's folly. Like Denver got lucky with Christian Brown. That was great. That happened. It worked well in the moment. They found a player that made sense, but asking some other rookie to do that, I'm not sure is the best choice.
So if Kaishan George, for instance,
Mm,
fell to
okay.
24, right? We're at 24. And
Yeah.
you're looking at a 6'7" legit wing that like can be a good player, but he's sitting in a situation now where he's just falling. You even in that situation, you just don't think that they would think that that's an important enough position for them to use, even if it's a wing that can do some creating and assisting with the second unit.
It's a good question. I with Keyshawn George specific or Keyshawn George, I think
Yeah, Keyshawn.
he's a freshman who just played his first season, still pretty raw. He would need some
Yeah.
time to develop, I think. And while he might end up being a better player in his career than somebody like Julian Strother, I wonder if Strother, because he's already played 500, 600 like NBA minutes, he already played 3 years at Gonzaga in a pro style system. I bet he's readier sooner. And
Mhm.
that's kind of the problem that Denver's running into. They've got limited options here with building around Nikola Jokic to
Right.
build the best possible team. And I wonder if somebody like Strother is just a better fit in that case. Like I think because I do like Keyshawn George. I think he's pretty good, but I don't know if he's
Hmm.
better than Strother right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to feel like such a crapshoot, which is why I think some of us are a proponent of finding some veterans, instead of doing this again. Because again, they already have, I think, 5 players on first round contracts on the team right now.
Yeah.
On or players on rookie contracts rather. So they're just getting really young at the bottom of their bench, and so if they do take one of these rookies, they're just going to have to make sure they're players that they're for sure going to play.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Whether it's a point guard, whether it's a big man, I find it
Yeah.
difficult to believe that a wing or a forward would play immediately with where Denver's rotation is at right now. But if it was, let's say it's a KCP replacement, somebody that could play in his 3-and-D immediately, like a Jacoby Walter. Like maybe that's what you're looking for in this case. I don't know, but
Mm,
I do think that there's a lot of ways that Denver can go and not all of them are good. I think if they could find Donon Holmes, if he's there at 28, that's an easy plug and play. You could expect
mhm.
him to be either your second or third center and develop into be something more.
Right. Well, we literally will find out in a couple days.
Yeah, that we will. Everybody, let us know down in the comments who you would select with the 28th pick in the NBA draft. What should the Nuggets do? Where do they go from here? He's Swipa. I'm Ryan. We're out.